Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Indie Zone podcast. My name is Kathy. We have just completed a multi-part series on the 175-page document known as the official transcript from the closed, sealed January 23rd, 2025 hearing on the defense's motion to suppress IgG DNA evidence. And there is so much information in that transcript, I cannot recommend it enough. It is a must read because for the first time, the public is being made aware of so many bits and pieces of key information from this case. One bit of information raises a question in my mind as to whether or not we are going to be seeing a potential motion in limine challenging chain of custody of that key piece of evidence in the case, the alleged DNA evidence on the snap of the sheath that was found at the home, the crime scene at 1122 King Road, was then transported to the ISP Forensic Lab, Idaho State Police in Meridian. We now learned from one of the witnesses that day. It's an official with the ISP Forensics Department. His name is Matthew Gamett. He testified that he, along with an unnamed official from the Moscow Police Department, together traveled to Othram Labs. And that business is located in the Houston, Texas area. This would have been approximately 2,000 miles of a journey that precious DNA evidence would have made. Now, number one, we don't know which official from the Moscow Police Department made this journey to Othram. I highly doubt that it was Detective Brett Payne, although he testified that he is responsible for all of the evidence in this case. Because if he traveled to Othram and had any one-on-one personal contact in person with any representative of Othram who did the testing on that DNA, I believe that Ms. Taylor would have asked him about it when he was on the stand. There were no such questions that were asked of Detective Payne when he testified, and he was the first witness testifying at that hearing. So now we know that this key piece of evidence traveled not hundreds, but thousands of miles away, because again, we have to take into consideration that it went from Moscow to Meridian, and then what it was described was a trip from Boise to Othram. So that is thousands of miles away. There is a potential every step of the way when evidence travels of contamination, of a break in the chain of custody that might raise questions of, is the item that was found at the crime scene the same item that made its way and arrived at Othram for testing and then underwent further testing when the feds took over? Chain of custody is such an important and key issue in criminal cases. There are rarely cases where it's not raised, as in a motion in limine, which is coming up here rather quickly on the 24th of February. That is the deadline for both parties to get those motions in. And chain of custody deals with how the evidence is maintained, how it travels, how it gets from the crime scene to the next point, to the next point, to the next point. And when you have 2,000 miles of a trip, we don't know by plane, if it was by car, how it happened, so many opportunities come into play for an argument of a potential break in custody. We'll wait and see if the defense raises this type of an argument. Until next time, this is Kathy. Thanks for joining us here today.